Hey math peeps! Okay, what we're going to look at today is comparing and contrasting, so looking at similarities and differences between the different types of linear equations. So we have already talked about y equals mx plus b, that form. We've talked about standard form, and there's actually a third form as well called point slope. So let's go ahead and start with the y equals mx plus b, or slope-intercept. Okay, so we're going to title our notes Compare and Contrast Linear Equations. Okay, and our first one is going to be slope-intercept form. Okay, and remember that is y equals mx plus b. Okay, and the way that we would use this, if we wanted to graph a line, is we would start at our y-intercept. On the graph, we would find the exact location where our line that we're drawing intersects with the y-axis. And then we would use our slope to go either up or down on the graph and then to the right. Okay? And then our x and our y would be our point, another point on the graph. Okay? So if we were going to try to use this to graph something, for example, if we have this equation, y equals 3/4 x minus 2, okay, we would know that we begin at -2 on the y-axis, okay, so begin at -2 on the y-axis. Okay, then our slope tells us that we go up 3 spots and we go right 4 spots. Okay, that's our rise over run. Let's just make sure you can see that okay. So our rise is up 3 spots, and it's up 3 spots because it's a positive 3, and then our bottom number always tells us which way we're going to go, or how far we're going to go on the graph, and we're always going to go right. Okay, you always go right, so 4 spots right. And once you graph that, then you can tell what your x is, because you will go, as you go up 3 over 4, you're going to create your line, and then you can find where your -2 on the y-axis coincides with your x. Okay, so your point of x and y would end up being 0, -2, if you want to graph that and just check it. Okay, so that's typically how we would use slope-intercept to figure out what our y-intercept is, to figure out what our slope is, and you can manipulate that to find your x and y. And then with the standard form, okay, we would be looking at, you can write it a couple of different ways. We talked about ax plus by plus c equals 0. You can also write it ax plus by equals c. Okay, so what do we know from this? We know that whatever number is to the left of the x, that represents our slope. Okay, we know that the y is going to have to get separated from the a and the x. The c is already over here if we choose this one. I like this one, so we're going to use that one as our example. I already know this before I do anything, okay? But I want to go ahead and I want to rearrange this to get it in the format that makes it a little bit easier to look at, okay? So my goal is going to be to get the y alone. I'm just going to recopy this right here so that we can all see what I'm doing. Okay, so I have by on the left. I want to move the ax. I'm going to do the inverse property here and move that over. So these cancel. I have by equals. I'm going to keep this as negative ax, and this is a positive c, so it's going to be plus c. Okay, and you'll see why in a second. So to get the y alone, I have to divide by b. Now my y is where I want it all by itself, and my slope is negative a over b. Then I have x, and my y-intercept is going to be c over b. Okay, so I have my y-intercept. Running out of paper again here, and then my slope. And you might notice for this one I have a negative slope, which means my line is going to be going down instead of up, and I'm still going to go to the right however many b spaces are. Okay, so let's throw some actual numbers in there and see what that looks like. Okay, just going to switch my page. And so an example for standard form, we will start with, I'm going to put standard form, continue. Okay, we're going to start with 2x plus 3y equals 6, and I am going to think about what my numbers tell me. Okay, I already know I'm going to have to do some rearranging here because the first step is going to be to turn it into our slope-intercept form. Okay, I want to get the y alone, so I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides. These cancel. I'm left with 3y over here equals, and I'm going to put the negative 2 first. Instead of writing 6 minus 2x, I'm going to write it negative 2 plus 6. You don't actually, ever add or subtract these to each other because one is a constant and one has a variable with it. But I'm getting closer to getting it in the right format so that my slope and my y-intercept seem pretty obvious. Okay, so I want to get y alone. I'm going to divide by 3 everywhere. My 3's cancel on the left. I have y equals, which was my goal. I have negative 2 over 3 is my slope, x, and then I can go ahead and divide this out. 6 divided by 3 is 2. So my slope is negative 2/3, and my y-intercept, or my b, is 2. So if I were graphing this, I would start with 2 on the y-axis, and it's positive 2, and then I would know, because my slope is negative, I'm going to go down 2 spots and to the right 3 spots. Down 2 spots to the right 3 spots. Okay? And once I draw my line, then I can figure out what my x and my y are. I already know my y because it's 2. And once I graph my line, I can see that my point on x happens to be 0. Okay? So that's what we end up with when we begin with standard form. Okay, I'm just going to throw in here the point slope form. Some of you may have seen this if you've looked ahead at all. And the formula for that is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, which some of the earlier videos we looked at this as y1 and y2, x1 and x2. Okay, either way, the m is still the slope. Okay, and if you know your slope, then you are good to go. And then for your x's and your y's, you take the information that you're given, and you're going to be given one of your y's and one of your x's. Okay, so you still solve it so that you can put it in the right format. Okay, and then you go from there. Okay, your goal is to find out what your point is that your lines go through. All right, so let's say you are given this problem as an example. Okay, y minus 2 equals 1/2 x minus 1. Okay, your slope then, slope is 1/2. Okay, and your points, your x and your y, are your 1 and 2. Your x1 and your y1 are 1 and 2, because you're given those in the problem. Okay, I think that's about it. All right, so there's comparing and contrasting. Some differences in how you manipulate the problems in general. Things that they have in common definitely would be that you can use each one of these three forms to graph a line. Okay, I'm going to switch back to our first page, and then we also are using the same information for all of these as well. We're finding the slope, we're finding either the y-intercept or one specific point on a line to help us graph the rest of the line. So there you go.